It's a nice graphic, Ray.
Thanks.
Welcome to Blockbuster Bums. Kick back your recliner, crack open a beer, and let's talk movies. And today we'll be discussing In Your Majesty's Secret Service with George Lazenby. So we have moved on temporarily from Sean Connery to the Lazenby Bond film, the only one that he made. Um, I don't know how to feel about that at this moment, I guess, but that's what happened. And so let's get into it. Justin, you got a synopsis for us?
I do. Like you said, George Lazenby stepping into the role of Bond for his first and only go at it. But James Bond in this one is wooing a mob boss's daughter and ends up going undercover to uncover the true reason behind Blofeld's allergy research in the Swiss Alps. um, Apparently, like we said, it involves a bunch of beautiful women from around the world. Who knows? That's what IMDb has on that.
Fair enough. So, Barry, what was your thoughts after watching this for the first time?
I guess I'll say first that I don't think I was in the proper mood for the movie. But at the same time, I didn't hate the movie. It was fine. There were a lot of things actually that I liked about it. I thought that it was a bit overlong. Um, but, generally speaking, is it something that, I'll give another watch maybe in 2 or 3 years? Absolutely. I thought it was okay.
All right. Tom, what did you think? And I guess we should just go out here and say this. None of the rest of us have seen this movie before either. So it's actually the rest of ours first time watching it as well. So Tom, what did you think your first time watching this movie?
All right. Well, the reason why I start that because it's I guess in American culture, at least growing up, I was always told this was a shitty movie.
Me too.
And it's
That's why I didn't see it.
yeah, I was like, there are certain Bond films here in America, like I think that foreigners may not understand, like cultural wise, you're just kind of told that these are bad movies, so you just avoid them. You only watch the good ones and all that. So there's a lot of these and all that, like with different actors that people just avoid, and this was one that I've avoided my whole life, even though I've seen it, on TV, advertised and all that. It's like, oh, it's the bad one. I'm just gonna skip over it. It's like I said, it's only one and only shot that Lazenby got at, so it's like, yeah, so maybe it isn't that that great.
Right, it's that weird guy that made that one Bond film. You know what I
Yeah, I was
mean?
gonna say
It's
yeah.
like you don't buy the Van Halen album where the guy from Extreme is singing on it.
Right.
Yeah, like that's not what I'm in for at all. But honestly, like as a movie, it was okay. But as a Bond film, like at least from what we've seen so far, it seemed more like a side story to me.
Yeah.
Like it didn't seem like a main storyline for a James Bond franchise. It seemed more of like, here's this little side like tale of James Bond's life that we're gonna bring back around later on maybe. Like, and that's, yeah.
Fair enough.
But it was okay. Like, I could see if I was a little kid and watched it, I'd probably have like a. I think I would enjoy it more seeing it through the lens of like a younger me.
Yeah. Justin, your thoughts?
Like Tom said, I purposefully skipped over this my entire life. I see it on TV, a little opening scene. You see the gun barrel going across the screen, and when you look at it, and you can usually see the character. When I say it's not Sean Connery, I turn the channel. I think that's about as much as I saw as a kid. Um, and I'm kind of disappointed that I did that because it's a good movie. It's a good spy movie, but I feel like it's not a good James Bond movie.
I agree.
Like there's a big difference between just any old spy movie that you've seen and then James Bond, because to me Lazenby doesn't act like James Bond.
Yeah.
There are certain things that he does that, okay, yeah, that is James Bond, but then there's a lot, just the way that he acts throughout the movie is to me uncharacteristic to James Bond.
100%.
But I still enjoyed the movie itself. It was, to me, it was very well written, but it shouldn't have been a James Bond movie.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Makes sense.
Ray, what were your thoughts?
I thought it was, I mean, it was okay. It was iffy, solid.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of wonky stuff in there. I mean, and it starts off with kind of like a 60s, like the Psycho vibe with that the car going to the ocean scene. Then you get to then Tracy starts to get pimped out by her dad. So it's kind of wonky situations going on.
Be the man to dominate her.
And then I'll just end the opening with, I think Lazenby was a great Bond in a bad movie.
Okay.
I don't know and that's fine.
Yeah.
I think he was an okay Bond with potential.
Yeah, I would have liked to see him in the
And-
second one. See what he did with his second movie.
Mhm.
And I guess I don't know how to describe the movie at this point, so I'll let that be.
Well, I don't want to beat a dead horse because you guys have said a lot of the things I wanted to say. I thought it was a good movie. It was not a good Bond movie. I do feel like they messed up a lot of character things with Bond in this movie. Some of it, I've wondered quite a bit how much of it was Lazenby and how much of it was the writing. Because I don't think Lazenby did a terrible job acting necessarily.
No.
Which is what I've been told my whole life, is that Lazenby was just such a terrible actor that the movie was terrible. And I don't think that was the case.
Did they dub over his voice? Because in certain parts, it seemed like it wasn't him talking. Like the sound didn't match up with his.
I felt
movement.
like his accent came and went.
Yeah, because he's Australian.
When
Yeah,
he
he's
was-
Australian,
When he was
yeah.
portraying the Professor Hilly, or whatever,
Yeah.
that was definitely that actor's voice. There's no way that Lazenby or anybody would have been able to do that voice, so that had to have been dubbed.
But I have a lot of issues with this movie because it's a Bond movie. I don't necessarily have, like Justin said, I don't necessarily have issues with the movie just because it's a movie. If you just showed me this movie and dubbed out every time they said James Bond and it would have just been, Fred, I'd have been like, oh, it's a spy movie. Okay, from the 60s. Okay, cool. I'll watch it. Solid. Let's move on. But since you put James Bond on it, and I already know the James Bond character and things like that, it brought up issues. I guess that's why I'll leave it for now. So let's get started on the movie here. Me personally, I thought the movie started off really, really weird. And Ray kind of touched on it a minute ago. It's just like Bond is driving, a car passes him, he decides to follow the car, and then the girl in the car tries to commit suicide. He saves her, and then a bunch of guys start beating him up.
Yeah.
Like it's like,
That was a weird sequence.
and they don't really explain it ever.
Yeah, like why did Bond decide to just follow this car? Because they passed him?
Because it was a hot lady in a sweet Mercury Cougar. I mean,
Well, that may be true, but at the same time, you're like, okay, she never talks about why she tried to kill herself. He never asks her.
is this a way that people often commit suicide? By the way, walking into the ocean is
guess so.
just a thing. I wouldn't assume suicide.
Yeah.
That's an odd choice.
And then at the same time, he just saved her life, and these guys start beating him up. But at the same time, then you find out that those are her dad's men. So he just saved her life. So why are they beating Bond up?
Yeah.
It is like the whole scene didn't make any sense to me. But it's the opening scene of the movie. Then he ends up beating them up, but then she takes his car, drives it to the top of the hill, and then gets in her own car and leaves again, which is weird.
Any excuse to drive that car on the beach. Like,
Yeah,
that's the first thing
yeah.
I thought of and everything. I was like, fucking off road. Like, just like.
the new Aston Martin's a pretty good looking car. Yeah, the opening of the movie, and I took a lot of notes, probably more notes than I've taken for any of the other movies, and I don't always do the notes, but
I actually took the least amount of notes I've taken of
I
any
thought
movie.
this movie was at least it's interesting. You know, you may not like it at all times, but at least it's kind of interesting with what they're choosing to do. They opened with, and I wish I could remember exactly, they opened the movie with M and Q,
Yeah.
which I think is probably to tell the audience, hey, remember these guys?
Yeah.
You know? And then, of course, you see the new Aston Martin, and you get like the back of Lazenby's head. You don't really see him for a little while. And then the whole scene, of course, with the girl in the cougar who is Contessa Teresa something or other. They call her Tracy.
Yeah.
So he goes after her. The fight's pretty good on the beach.
Yeah.
A
Although Bond does the same move like 6
lot
times.
of judo throws.
Yeah, over
Yeah.
and over and over again. Yes.
At one point, I thought that he had killed
Uppercuts.
the larger man by drowning him.
I did too. I thought
But
he'd
then
be
he's
dead for
back
sure.
like after about 5 seconds.
Yeah, it pops up when you grab. Yeah, like,
Yeah, he holds his head underwater until he stops moving, and then gets off of him, and the guy gets up.
Which is what I always told myself I'd do if somebody tried to drown me, though, is I'd just stop moving immediately. So that then they'd let go, hopefully. So,
just
anyway.
just go possum all of a sudden.
Yeah,
just
absolutely. But I think it's noteworthy, at least, to mention that, you know, when you see, you know, our new James Bond, you know, the first thing he says ultimately is, you know, hey, I'm introducing myself. I'm Bond, James Bond. He starts off with it off the bat. You guys like that?
I don't know. I feel like they were trying to accomplish some things at the very beginning of this movie, because I agreed with you with showing M and Q. I think they were being like, "Hey, everybody else is the same in this movie. It's just not Bond. It's just not Connery."
Well, they spent the whole intro the music intro, with them replaying the last 5 movies.
Yes.
To show you that this is Bond.
Yes.
We just got a new guy.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Ray.
Which I think was I'm sure at the time, a smart
They probably
decision.
needed
Yeah.
to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Show some
But
continuity.
there's also some lack of continuity. You just said the word continuity. You know, they do that, of course, because hey, it's still James Bond. But then there are some odd things throughout the movie where it's like, are you trying to say it's not?
Well, let's just touch on the oddest thing here, that at the end of the beach scene, after she drives away and he's walking to his car, he looks straight into the camera and says, "This never happened to the other fella." Almost like he broke the fourth wall.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so I thought that was weird. I don't really know what to think of it even at this moment, because I didn't find it funny. I rewound it and listened to it again to make sure I caught it right. Justin and I talked about it off air. Like, did he break the fourth wall? What were they trying to accomplish with this? Were they trying to, like, at first I was like, okay, he broke the fourth wall, and he was saying, like, this never happened to Connery. But then I was like, maybe he didn't. Maybe he was talking about a different 00 agent, you know, and they were just trying to be cheeky. But
Yeah.
I do at this point, I think he broke the fourth wall, and he was talking about Connery.
Yeah, I think he did. I think it was their attempt at humor, and I don't think any of their attempts at humor really landed in this show or in this movie. Like Barry and I talked about it, there were several other points in the movie where Lazenby tried the quintessential like James Bond like little one-liners after like a henchman died. Or
Yeah, he
something,
did. Yeah.
and it just didn't land. Like it was one of those things to where either the timing was off, a bad joke, or it was one of those things where it just I couldn't find those little like parts in the writing that I enjoyed in the other movies that I did in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess that was the thing, like the little like things to where like if you're not paying attention, you would miss it type deal. Like so much of it was just out right there in your face, and it just the delivery was bad, I think. But yeah, there were a lot of off the mark jokes.
So then Bond follows Tracy to a hotel casino place, which, by the way, I got multiple vibes from this place. First off, the outside part, the pool, the umbrellas, all that stuff, reminded me of the Goldfinger scene when Goldfinger's cheating
Yeah.
at cards.
And-
I almost thought it was the same set.
Especially when they pan down at the pool and that. Yeah, no,
Yes.
I know the shot you're talking about.
And second off, the inside, the casino, also reminded me of, is it Dr. No? It's Dr. No when he goes into when he's playing cards with the brunette woman. I can't remember her name. That whole scene reminded me of that. So I did get some vibes from this place here. And by the way, Tracy does the weirdest thing here. She goes and plays a hand of cards with no money, and then loses
and doesn't have the money.
and doesn't have any money.
Yeah, it's peculiar. This character is very strange. The relationship dynamic as it moves forward is, odd. But I have to assume with some of the scenes they want to remind you of those old movies. I think they're desperate to make you, hey, it's still us.
And I think I think you're right. But I think they purposely brought back little things to trigger those memories of other movies. And I'm like, oh, remember you liked this in this movie, or you liked this scene in that
remember?
one. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think they did. They had to do it because all this time it's been Connery, and this is the first time where they've had to change it up.
Yeah, you're one to
and they
imprint
didn't
on a
want
new
to.
guy, and
So they were trying to help the audience kind of accept that this is James Bond.
When you think about it, when the four of us started watching Bond, there had already been like 4 Bonds. So like changing wasn't like new. But at this time in 1969, this, like you said, this like they'd never changed before. Bond
They did
was
have the
Sean
choice.
Connery.
And Connery was like, no.
like this
Yeah.
was the first.
So-
So it. Yeah, now it's old hat. Now we talk about it as if it's like, oh, who's gonna be the next and all, rather than like at the time it's like, oh my God, there's a new James Bond. Like, yeah.
So I think since obviously she's been brought up, Tracy, and since she is a huge dynamic throughout the movie, it's worthwhile to mention, not only are we introduced to her at the beach where Bond saves her and she takes off. Of course, here at the casino as well, where as Tom mentioned, she does a weird thing where she plays a hand of cards, but apparently has no money whatsoever. I think that's just part of her character, I guess, that she's wild and crazy and you never know what she's going to do. Bond bails her out, says, oh yeah, we were going to partner just to help her save face, I guess, and pays her off. And then they agree to meet in her room, not in Bond's room, in her room. So Bond shows up and she's not there, but a giant guy trying to kill him is,
Yeah.
It's so weird. Like
yeah.
Justin and I talked about this too, is like that whole scene almost didn't make sense because she's like, come to my room, and gives him his room number. He goes to her room. Like you said, there's a giant henchman there that tries to kill him. First off, then Bond beats him up, leaves him there, and then goes to his own room where Tracy really is. And it's not like, and then he confronts her and is like, you tried to have me killed. And
He
she's
only
like,
barely confronts her though.
well, he kind of barely confronts her, but she denies it. Then he slaps her.
Yeah.
She still denies it. And then they sleep together.
Didn't he tell her to
But
get
the henchman is standing outside the door the whole
scene was
time.
weird. The whole scene was weird. He walks into his room very nonchalant.
I said the same thing.
And, he kind of starts, cleaning his face off or whatever in the mirror. And then Tracy, dressed, in a sexy little number, has a robe on. And
Very
Shows up in the
provocatively.
mirror and all,
She's
like-
obviously there for,
Some Bond.
something. She pulls a gun on him.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah.
like, well, why are you... I don't even think that he would have
Yeah.
necessarily done anything at all to her had she not held a gun on him,
Yeah.
which
Yeah, you would've
bothered
definitely-
me in his character because you're James Bond, super spy, and you're kind of you're not questioning what the hell's going on here. I came across that.
Well, not only that, but in previous movies, whenever he comes back into his own hotel room, he walks around checking everything. In this movie, he just walked into his hotel room, took his coat off, and threw his gun on the chair, and just turned his back on the room and started cleaning his face. I'm like, that is not a Bond move.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. And I'm not again. I blame anything negative in this movie not on Lazenby, but on the writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could very well be. But then, like I said, he ends up sleeping with her. By the way, he puts his gun in the drawer beside his bed. I'm not really sure why he did that.
I think just so they could do the shot later on where she took it and gave him the money for
Yeah.
it. Like, just like pay it forward type thing. I think it's just so they could have that shot.
But like, she didn't take the gun; it was the other guy.
Yeah, the henchman had
Oh.
The
it.
henchman took the gun because they're the one. They pulled the gun on him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, did she set him up? It makes you kind of go.
Yeah,
back
like
and
the
think
whole
that-
thing's confusing. You don't know what's going on. But then they take him to her dad. The henchmen capture him, take him to her dad, and then the dad, first off, doesn't want him dead, which is weird because his henchmen just tried to kill him.
Yeah, especially like when you close the door, knife already ready to be thrown and all.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the whole thing up to that point, I'm like, no, fine. we're
But
fine
second
now,"
off,
like-
I
he's
think what they're
he's
trying
like
to
my daughter. I haven't seen her in so long, and she won't listen to anything I say. So it's almost like, well, the daughter wasn't working with the henchmen then. So those scenes are just so confusing.
I think we're supposed to take the henchmen as just guys who are looking out for her.
Well,
There's no particular, like, oh, hey, there's a guy in the room, so we're going to deal with it.
Yeah, it's just these are guys that are
I
just
mean,
like
yeah.
sent by her father to always watch her,
Yes,
even though
kind of
that
like
she-
bodyguards
yeah, to
until
where
they have a more specific task they're given, which is what they were given when they came and got Bond, and took him to, what's the guy's name? Carlos? Wasn't Carlos. I'm sorry, I can't remember. To Tracy's father.
Yeah.
He's
And the whole time,
Mark Ange Draco.
Dracu. Yeah,
oh,
Dracu.
Was it Draco?
Draco.
And then, of course, Bond, when he gets to the door where Draco's inside, he, beats up the guys and goes inside. And I'm just thinking to myself, when we're introduced to Draco, like, because Draco specifically says, after Bond asks about, well, why in the hell did you kidnap me and, put a gun to my, kidneys or whatever? And the guy's like, well, that's the only way to get you. No, it's not. No, it's not. You could have, called him. You could have sent somebody to his room and said, hey, this guy'd like to talk to you. The idea that you have to send 4 henchmen and threaten to murder him to talk to him is kind of silly.
Not only that, but then in the weirdest move ever, he offers Bond $1 million to marry his daughter.
To dominate her.
The Dominator, yeah.
You need someone to dominate.
Yes, which
So-
is
So she's a wild, out of control, rich kid, basically.
yep.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
But she's also got something about her, obviously. It's very appealing and attractive. Yeah, very strange. He offers, $1 million. And, of course, any normal person would be like, well, yeah, the hot young woman, absolutely. But Bond turns it down. But Bond thinks he can get information on Blofeld from this guy because this guy's like an underworld figure.
Yeah.
And Bond apparently is obsessed with getting Blofeld at this point. That's his mission.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Yeah, because M kicked him off of the whole thing.
Yeah.
You need to. No, we're done with that.
Yes.
We're moving on. Bond said, "Well, screw you.
Yeah.
I quit."
Well, like,
All right.
not moving on for a damn thing. Like,
Well, I think we skipped that whole interaction between him and Moneypenny. That's a weird.
I was gonna bring it up because
movie.
it bothered me a lot.
Yeah, he even like kissed her on the lips on the way
Yeah,
out
that-
and all.
and
Well-
I'm like, wow,
well,
this is
he
the
he
closest-
grabs her ass first thing when he walks in the door,
Yeah.
and I was like, whoa, what is this? Because he's always teasing her and giving her hope and all those things, but he never actually physically does anything. And in this movie, he originally just grabs her ass, and she's like, what? She even was like, whoa, and like gives him this look like, what are you doing? Then he asked her to dinner on a date.
Yeah.
Then on the way out, asked her to dinner again and kisses her.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not the Bond Moneypenny relationship
Yeah,
at
no,
all.
this is
Well,
their
even
fault.
she even
This is the
played
closest
into
he's
it
ever
more so
been
too.
with
Yeah.
So
her
it's
doing
one.
that.
It was a two-way thing, but yeah, Lazenby definitely he got his money's worth in this movie.
I would
Like,
I would say it was borderline mean. Just because like it's always this teasing thing between the two of them, but I felt like Bond or in this movie or Lazenby, however you want to look at it, really gave her like hope. Like he was literally asking her to dinner
He did give her hope because
and kissed her.
And Moneypenny was all for it. She was like, "Really? Finally?"
Well,
Okay.
later in the movie, she's bawling
Yeah.
because she realizes she can't have him.
And I think that's where that comes full circle. I think that's why
Yeah.
we've seen that I think that's why we've seen them both coming on so strong there because later on what we've seen.
Yeah. It's weird.
There are so many things in this movie that just aren't James Bond.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly. Like I said, I don't know where solely the blame goes, but like you said, Barry, I am going to have to lean towards the writers because I feel like if Lazenby was just going off the rails, they would have reined him in. Over and over, because it's a lot of things. It's not just like one thing that he did. It's not like he just did the Moneypenny thing, and they're like, "Oh, we gave Lazenby some leash, and this is what he decided to do with the scene." Like it's like 5, 6, 7 things that he does that are just completely unbond. So I lean towards this is the way it was written.
I think so, because I think they probably thought that we need to be more ambitious to try to get people on board with this guy being the new Bond, because they probably were thinking this is probably going to be him going on, going forward. And so they went, and, they did the ambitious thing. They pushed the whole Moneypenny relationship. They pushed other things. I thought Lazenby was more physical than Connery in this one. So yeah, and then he's younger.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
you
almost
just
later on
one.
kind of mirrors a little bit of how Craig was when he was introduced.
yeah. He very much looks the part, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And his size and physicality works. He's just written very oddly.
Um.
Oh, I do think it's worth mentioning that, he was taken off of the Blofeld case by M, who's very cold in this movie, and, like I think Justin said that he then, Bond seeks to resign altogether and asks Moneypenny, hey, let him know I'm resigning.
Turn this in, yeah. And
Of course, it turns out that Moneypenny doesn't actually resign on his behalf, but she basically asked for a couple weeks of vacation.
she basically like saved both of them face.
Yeah.
Because like he didn't really want to have to fire Bond, and Bond didn't really want to quit. Like it was.
Well, you see,
yeah.
well, I should say you see it, you hear it, or however you want to put it, because when Bond leaves, M comes across the radio and thanks Moneypenny for doing it.
Yeah.
So, like
I said, she saved them both face. Like that's what it was.
Let me ask you guys this: is that a Bond thing to do? I didn't think it was.
I don't know, because part of me was like, all of these movies have led us to Blofeld. Like he's killed number 11, number 9, number 2, number 4, number 6. Like, he's been building his way all the way to Blofeld, and then it's like, okay, you're on a mission to go get Blofeld after he's done all these things, and then he pulls him off and says, no, you're not, you're off this case. I understood him being pissed off. I understood him being reactionary. So yes, I could kind of see it. And Moneypenny is like, hey, you need these 2 weeks to think about this essentially before you actually do it. And then he's right back on. Over those 2 weeks, he uses those 2 weeks to get more evidence to put back on the case, essentially. But this is not one thing where I was like, holy crap, Bond would never do that. That this part didn't strike me that way.
Okay. I got one thing that Bond would never do. During that whole 2 weeks thing, he ended up carrying out a mission completely and does it perfectly. The whole when he was trying to get information
Yes.
out of that safe, he did it. There was no problem. No one caught him.
Right.
He got in and out. That's so on Bond.
He's
Bond
even-
gets caught in everything.
He's even sitting there all nonchalant and
Yeah.
everything.
Reading the
Well,
Playboy.
yeah, just like,
But
like,
that safe picker / printer kind of
That was
right.
I really
Yeah,
thought it was a
fucking
printer. When it
outstanding.
first came in,
It
I
was.
seriously thought, I was like,
no
what
one
are
would
we
ever
doing
think
here?
to
Like,
combine those things and make them.
I was like, is this man like really just like
and picks the same.
they just like shipped in a fax and everything just to ship documents and all? I was like, man, like
No one saw the, outside saw a big old crane just
yeah.
carrying a big old bucket over to a window.
Forget the crane, the bleach blonde dude that stands out everywhere he is in society.
Oh man, I thought he
Like
was.
to where like, dude, you
yeah.
just look like a suspicious
I
character.
thought
Like
he was gonna be a
every
version of Felix for some reason, because you would see him, but he didn't talk. You didn't know what he was doing other than
No.
oh, he is helping Bond. and then he,
Yeah.
shows up later again, and I'm thinking
Well,
this
you
is
just-
probably gonna be Felix.
Keep repeating the
wasn't.
thing, and I was like, man, like you're just like you're giving Bond away. Like you are so like
He's
just
very obvious.
yeah.
And
like,
he
you
looks
didn't-
like he looked like a bad guy.
He did.
Yeah, yeah.
He
It's like
did.
you,
Yeah.
you
'Cause
look
he
like a
was just
henchman,
watching
bro.
him.
Like just
For a lot of time, he was just watching.
like yeah, some evil Swede or something like that, just wandering around.
I guess he was.
like, just-
Especially when they're in the
for his
mountains. That's what
purposes.
it looked like.
yeah,
Totally.
to where like you can't be some just like quiet, creepy blonde dude in the background always hanging
Yeah.
around.
Right.
Like no, you're that dude. Like
So
Usually Bond's henchman.
here's the next
Yeah,
thing, guys.
yeah.
Here's the next thing, and this part bothered me more than maybe anything in the movie. We go from there to a he's on vacation for 2 weeks, so a 2 week love montage. It's a whole montage of him falling in love with this woman and them
yeah.
going places together, on dates, on vacations, picnics, and do all these things, and it's just making out and all these things. And I'm like, this is so un-Bond, it's ridiculous. Like Bond, first off, Bond doesn't fall in love with these women, but second off, this is not a Bond movie thing. We don't get love montages in Bond movies.
Yeah.
It was almost to the point where I was like, if we weren't doing the podcast on it, I might have turned it off at that point and maybe come back to it later. I was just like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we doing this love montage? Like, I literally wrote down on my notes over here, we're 40 minutes into this movie and all it's been is a love story.
Yeah, they set it up. The setup was quite long. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And the payoff didn't
I'm like,
come
is that
until the end.
freaking Louis Armstrong?
yeah, it's
It is a cool song, and I didn't really mind the montage, but not in a Bond movie. You're absolutely right. I wanted to make sure to point out that during this time off, Bond, one of the first things he ends up doing is going to meet Draco, I think is the guy's last name again, Tracy's dad, at a bullfight,
Yeah.
which is a
Oh.
pretty
Yeah.
cool scene. Generally, it very much, while that scene's going on, felt like Bond was kind of just a bystander. You know what I mean? Like everybody else had the bulk of the lines, and
almost like he's an extra in his own
yeah,
movie.
he almost felt like an extra during that
Yeah.
time. But one of the big things that comes out of that scene is that Tracy insists that her father give this information to Bond that he wants about where maybe he can find Blofeld or get information, and then that led to the attorney's office where the safe was cracked and getting the papers on Blofeld, which leads to finding out that Blofeld wants to be a count.
Yes.
And so he's working with like the genealogy department at some fancy university in the UK.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that leads to our James Bond meeting with this gentleman who's a professor and taking on the role of playing this professor.
Yes.
I just felt that was necessary.
It is. It is.
So let me ask this question: how did you guys feel when James Bond took the centerfold out of the Playboy and rolled down the elevator
was
with that
hilarious.
motherfucker in his pocket?
I laughed because
It was
like,
funny.
It was full view. Like,
Yeah.
Well, he walked down the hallway with it open.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
He
you
just-
seen a nip? You
Not-
seen a nip?
I
in
did
there.
see it. Yeah, he's nonchalantly folded back down and kept
Yep.
going.
I mean, I thought it was funny. I thought that was probably the funniest thing in the
Yeah,
movie.
I was like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
But it had nothing to do with anybody talking. It was just an action that he did, walking down the hallway, looking at a centerfold.
And it could have been Lazenby just ad-libbing or, like you said, playing it or something like that. So, I mean, who knows what that was all about. But, yeah, that was, I don't know. It was a shot at humor, and I think that was a good one.
Yeah.
Like,
So then we have, like Barry mentioned, now Bond is ready to go to Blofeld's research on allergies facility.
Of course.
And
In the Alps.
because he's the genealogy expert from the university. And I will say this. I thought Lazenby did a good job with this.
He was good as Hilly.
Yeah, he was as Hilly. Yeah.
I never minded
was funny.
Lazenby's acting in this movie. The only thing I minded was the writing for him.
And a little bit of the delivery of certain things. But yeah, I didn't think he was a bad actor.
Oh,
So he shows up, they have the helicopter ride and all that stuff to get him there. He go gets his room, which he's told he's not allowed to leave without permission.
Yeah,
Which
was
I found
never-
he has to
Also
bu-
known as jail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very weird. Um, Blofeld has created a army of beautiful women,
from all over the world.
and Bond sleeps with two of them while he's there. Then gets in trouble for it,
Yeah.
and Blofeld then tells him, "Well, I know it's you. Like you're the
Yeah, like first off, like you guys met face to face before.
like last movie."
Yeah, like
Like-
you putting on a pair of glasses isn't like gonna Clark Kent your way through this and all
I mean,
that. Like,
apparently it did because Blofeld explained the reason why he knew it is because of the information that Bond was talking about. It was
Yeah,
like
he
you
messed up and
slipped
said the
in
wrong
certain
facility's
areas.
name.
So like
Yeah,
Blofeld
but
didn't
it's-
think about it until that.
Yeah.
But that's one to where like, man, it's just like I don't know.
Well, it's
plot
a
hole.
different
Well,
guy.
like,
It's
yeah.
Lazenby as Connery. They look totally
I mean, it's a
different.
Oh yeah,
different
yeah,
Blofeld
that was
and-
the other
yeah,
fella.
different
Like,
Blofeld.
yeah,
That
you
was-
saw the other guy. Like, just like, yeah,
Hey,
like,
my eye, I got it fixed. You see?
yeah.
So what do you
like,
guys
I have no
think
earlobes, man.
with this? Like,
Like,
they just decided, we don't care, about the story we've already told to this point in the
Well,
other
guys,
films?
hold on.
Remember,
I just
not
thought
a
about
thing.
this. Last time Blofeld met Bond was Japanese.
That's
Oh my
true.
God.
He was Japanese.
oh, of course, yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
fair point.
Like,
And
fair
Blofeld's eye might not have been okay because he had that big scar. It might have messed up his
like,
vision a
double
little bit.
vision or
It's good to
depth
see that
perception
that's
issues.
healed.
He got
like,
it healed. It was
Yes.
completely healed.
So it's a new Blofeld. I think that's noteworthy.
That is true.
It's
Yeah.
Telly
Yeah, it's a
Savalas
different
now,
guy.
Yes.
as opposed to Donald Pleasance. I like both of them.
I do
thought,
too.
I thought Savalas was.
They're very
A-okay.
different, though.
I,
Yeah, Savalas was more serious.
I
Like,
just liked in
just
this
a-
one.
I don't know.
More of a physical presence.
He is.
Oh yeah,
He is very
Like,
much so.
He got out there with his henchmen on the skis. He was like,
Yes, a lot
yeah.
of skiing.
That, yeah,
With
that's
his
that's
skin-colored
what I
hat.
like is that he wasn't just a guy like making orders. He was out there like trying to actively kill Bond as well. Like, but I still love like how they introduced him. Like once again, it's the cinematography of it, the aerial shot, like looking down of him like petting the cat. All it did was remind me of the cartoon Inspector Gadget because that's all you see
Yeah.
in those
Yeah,
shots
claw.
the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whereas like there's that reference, so like you might as well you just see like the silhouette and the cat. Like it's like there it is. Like
So Bond pulls off being hilly for at least a few days while he's there, right? Because I mean, he goes there, he talks to the what's her name,
shoot,
the
couple
one they
months,
saw,
yeah, at least.
Fraulein, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
pretty great in the movie.
Yeah, I like her too. She kind of reminds you of the woman from Russia.
Oh
Was
yeah.
she what, number 4?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, she is similar. Character.
But he also talks to Blofeld face to face. Like I said, he hooks up with two of the women there, and then he gets in trouble by trying to hook up with that girl again.
Which very jarring scene when it like she's under the covers.
Yeah,
and all that.
that
Where
was actually great.
Yeah, that was like a close up of her all of a sudden like Jenna, like oh
Fraulein.
shit, like yeah, that was
Fancy meeting you either.
yeah, that was one that I was like Barry said, like I knew it wasn't her under the sheet, but it
Yeah, when
was
she
like
wasn't responding.
yeah, to where I was like, all right, so
Hilly.
what's gonna happen here? And then I was like, oh, I didn't expect that as a shot sequence. Like it's a lot of like close up cutscenes, like.
Yeah. So we got to mention some of the madness going on at this place. Okay, so this guy has
The whole plot you just
a
laughed. It's like,
lair at the top of the Swiss Alps.
Yes.
And it's awesome. It's got even a rotating like dining area and
yeah,
stuff.
like
Yeah,
the
that
Space
was
Needle
cool.
Yes,
Seattle.
that's
Like,
very
just
very
like-
cool. Where he is presumably, and I think actually, treating allergies through some system of vaccinations and hypnosis.
Yes.
And all of the allergy sufferers there are hot 20 somethings
Yes.
from all over the world. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a lovely place.
I mean, there's all different races, ethnicities, hair colors. Like there, I mean, it's just pretty women of every different look.
Right.
Yeah,
Like
it's
the
like it's
variety.
a small world ride, but with hot chicks and not creepy dolls. And this plays into Blofeld's plan, which is to, I guess, destroy much of life, including crops and I think all kinds of stuff, and
Yeah,
it
different
caused
species
illness
of
throughout the
things.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah, through transferring this viral stuff through these attractive young women through hypnosis. That's
Yeah.
the point, right?
Yep. Doesn't he mention that he's going to destroy an entire continent as a point?
Yeah, we talking about the crowd, like yeah,
It's like make them infertile.
yeah,
Yeah.
like and really what he's talking about, like genetically modifying shit. Like
Indeed,
that's
indeed.
that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Like
it kind of hit
yeah.
home when I watched it. I was
yeah,
like,
because I was
this all
like,
seems
so
kind.
like all I could think of was like, oh, so he owns Monsanto. Like just like
Does this guy
just,
work for
like,
Pfizer?
Yeah, well, like well, I guess you did cure allergies, but like
Mhm.
it's
By the way, speaking of the genealogy thing, one thing that really stood out to me, wasn't a big deal, but it just stood out to me, is the Bond family crest has
I
"The
loved
world
it.
is not enough" on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
that
that.
was
Talk about
Yeah.
like foreshadow. Well, it made me think too because I remember you saying like the movies aren't in the same order as like the books and all that.
Yeah.
So it made me wonder if that was like some type of foreshadowing reference with the books, if you were to read them in sequential order or something like that. If
yeah,
had
it
any
could be.
bearing.
Maybe, yeah.
But then I started raking my brain. I was like, well, shit, was that a thing in the older Bond movies that I've missed this whole time? Was like, do they sneak in lines of other titles that we don't know? And I started getting in my own head about it.
I mean, obviously they
Like,
always use the line of the movie,
yeah.
in the movies and like make a point of it. But I don't remember them being other movies, but
Well,
I could be
couldn't
wrong.
either, but that was just one to where, like I said, it was so obvious and in your face that I was like, oh, did they give me something here? Like, it's like a freebie. Like,
It happens more often in like the newer ones. They'll do like callback titles and like little cliche
Yeah.
stuff. But I don't think I even caught anything in the other five.
and
In
I
this one,
didn't
they're like,
either.
30
Well,
years from now.
yeah, I was
we're
gonna say,
Yeah.
like, it's not even like it was a Pierce Brosnan one and all that.
Yes.
Like, so I mean, yeah, it's not even like the next one we're gonna watch or anything. Like, it's ways away. Like,
Right. So at this point, Bond gets caught, like we mentioned, because Blofeld catches on to him, and he captures him. But instead of putting him in a cell, he puts him in like a mechanic's room, like a mechanical room.
yeah,
The
it's
way out.
And-
it's the like the pulley system for the trolley car or whatever.
Yes.
Like,
So then Bond just climbs out and escapes.
well, after several fucking that was
Yeah, yes,
tedious.
yeah.
That was
It
kinda
takes.
funny.
Yeah.
There were a few times where like, man, I'd be pissed. Like, it's
It's like he's
like
got there just there and
Well,
he goes back.
the first time he's like all like technique and everything. He's on sliding
Now
and
he was
everything.
doing that correctly. I
Yeah,
was
Yeah.
surprised that he
so
actually did that
correctly,
right.
and then after you say he's just like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna muscle fuck my way across it really quick and all."
I
Like,
think this is where the movie, in my opinion, kind of picked up.
Yes, it did.
yeah,
I think the best part about that scene, and you'll probably agree, you guys, was when he ripped his pockets out and used those gloves.
Yes.
I thought that was
Yeah,
that-
it's-
that's the kind of touch I like in the James Bond movies. It's
Mhm.
like, he's
By the way, his pockets
he's
came out
thinking.
really easy. By the
Yeah,
way,
he just like
he pulled it out and then he just went.
Yeah.
It was just like so easy. Anyway, so he climbs out, and then he steals a pair of skis and starts down the mountain. By the way, this motherfucker has like a 2-minute head start, and they catch him in like 30 seconds.
oh,
That happened
on him.
several times,
They're
'cause
on him.
later on when him and Tracy are going,
Yes.
they're way gone.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
Yeah,
those
like I
guys
said,
catch
those yeah.
So
I assume they have various little line shacks with skiers ready to go.
yeah, so he starts skiing down the mountain or skiing down the Alps, and henchmen start flooding out to follow him. But Blofeld, like Tom mentioned, goes with him. He's skiing down the mountain with a gun. So that is interesting. He skis and skis, kills a few guys. A few guys hurt themselves.
That even continues on one ski.
Yeah, continues on one.
That-
That's the
yeah.
thing. Nobody screws up skiing. Like they're all skiing down the mountain. Nobody has an accident until after Bond is on one ski, and then slowly they start running into trees and shit. So I'm like, so wait, Bond is skiing better on one ski than these guys who live in the Alps are skiing on two skis.
That's
Yes.
their job. Is to
Yes.
ski
Yeah,
after
that
guys.
is what you're doing. Yeah, like
So then Bond uses the ski as a weapon and kills two guys.
The scene where he threw the guy over the cliff.
Went on
That was
forever.
hilarious.
Yes.
The guy fell
Which I
forever.
liked, actually.
they really wanted to show that all the like drop too.
They wanted to show that his weight was not equivalent to an actual body. 'Cause
Yeah.
the way he was,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, the way it
the way
flopped
the
and
dummy
all,
was
like,
floating was just.
but you could tell they wanted that shot though.
I like that they hung with it.
So then he goes down into a village and he's running around. He fights 2 more guys. He's running around the village, and all of a sudden, there's Tracy.
I had real
Yeah.
problems with this scene.
This is weird. Like, why was she there? How did she know
Well,
he
she
was
took
there?
up winter sports.
No, her dad told her. Because remember after
Oh,
all
did
that,
she?
she explained how. Because he asked her like, "How did you even find me?" Like, it was something. She said she was interested in sports, or whatever, and then she said a particular sportsman or whatever, and then she kind of said that her dad told her where. He
Oh,
was.
okay. I missed that then.
So yeah,
But
It was a
then,
weird
which is
yeah,
weird. Being a father, I'm not gonna tell my kid where you are, knowing that there's danger there.
Well, knowing that
it was kind of clumsy.
you
writing.
went you
I
went
mean,
there
the
to take
writing
out like the world's
Try
most
this.
dangerous man.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
I
they
got to mention this real quick.
Okay,
and
go
I
for it.
apologize. And I'm sure you guys have an issue with this. He got legitimately scared, James Bond, of a guy in a flippin' polar bear outfit.
he did, yes.
What was?
Oh yeah, when
What?
he turned that corner and
Yeah,
And then
this.
the dude was laughing the whole time.
Could you see
He
Sean
kept laughing.
Connery?
Yeah, like you
Would-
hear him
would
laugh,
Sean
like,
Connery be like,
like-
no, absolutely not.
So then they jump
can't even imagine
in
Sean Connery
Tracy's
yelling.
car and start driving down the mountain, and somehow the bad guys figure out that's where they're at. So they drive down the mountain and immediately catch them again.
Yes.
And they drive down this. First off, they're driving at high rates of speeds and drifting around corners with 5 feet of snow on the ground. And the whole time I'm thinking, there's ice on this road.
They're losing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like there's no way you guys are driving this well on these
Rear-wheel
roads.
drive vehicles.
That's
Yeah.
all, yeah. I gotta say, when I seen that Mercury on there, or like,
I saw somebody scooting along in a Volkswagen,
Yes.
and I was like,
Yes.
No, yeah, the henchman are like, yeah, when he first lands, even everything, he takes like a reindeer and a sleigh up that little ramp, and then his henchman follows along inconspicuously, just gunning it like up this
in
ramp.
a
I'm
VW
like,
bug. You're
yeah, and
just
I was
like,
like,
what?
oh yeah, you don't stand out at all in this town.
That thing doesn't go in perfect conditions.
Right.
Yeah, and then you like follow. There's nothing. It's just white and everything, and you think you're just like gonna like inconspicuously follow these people up a mountain, and you're not allowed up like after so far. Like, it just blew my mind. Like once again, you're standing out so much, dude. Like it's no wonder you got caught. Like
So they continue to run from these people. They finally lose them, but then they run out of gas. And so they park in a barn.
And the wipers quit working.
The wipers quit
yeah,
working
yeah,
too.
it's
Yes,
they're, like,
everything quits
freezing
working.
and all that. Like
Then they park in a barn. He sleeps with her again.
He asked her to marry.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yes, he asked her to
like,
marry
that's
him, which
where the-
again,
where the-
not a Bond move.
Yes. What in the world?
yeah.
So he asked her to marry him. They sleep together. They get up in the morning, and Blofeld and his men burst into the barn. Again, how they knew they were there, nobody knows, because nobody would know.
They even
They
tracked
followed
them
the
there because
tracks.
they did it. Yeah, but there shouldn't have been any tracks because it was like in the middle of a blizzard when they got in the.
Yeah,
Like,
their
yeah,
tracks should have been
everything
covered
be,
to that point.
Everything be whitewashed out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
other than when they left the barn, you shouldn't see any trail leading to that barn.
But when they burst into the barn, Tracy and Bond are already gone skiing down the mountain,
Yeah.
and they catch them again in like 30 seconds. They just
Yeah,
ski after them and catch them immediately and are shooting at them and all this crazy stuff. Well, then Blofeld decides, hey, I'm going to cause an avalanche and kill them that way.
Oh, skip the one part though.
What's that?
The blower.
Oh,
yeah.
yes. That was like some Timothy Dalton level brutality.
Yeah.
Yes. One of the guys, Bond doesn't throw him in it. The guy falls in it, but one of the guys falls into one of those snowblower, like the giant ones that are on the tracks, and like he gets sucked up in it, and like it's shooting his blood and everything out.
Everything. Yeah.
And Bond goes, he had guts.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
But
Delivery.
once again, there was it was just bad delivery because it was that lag time, and I get you just killed a henchman kind of, and you're trying to make the Bond joke and all that.
You had to
like,
think about it. He was,
yeah, but it was one of those where like it just didn't land, and you could even see the look on her face where she was even kind of like that
It's
was
a shit joke.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
you
joke
got
kinda, like
chopped
it.
up in pieces.
and
It just
holy
wa-
cow, they left it on that forever, didn't
Yeah.
They
they?
did, yeah.
They wanted you to see, yeah, this
Yes.
dude really got chopped up.
Yeah.
I
So even
actually
even
had my
Panda Blofeld when he looked back at it like, oh, like, it's like
I had my 7-year-old with me watching this, and it was kind of unexpected. And he's still at the point where he understands movies are not real, but he'll ask like, "Is that guy okay? Like, is he in real life? Is he okay?"
Yeah.
buddy, he
Well,
is."
maybe not because it's what he's the 60s. He's probably dead.
So
I guess
that's
he's
a fair
he's
point.
okay
He might
then.
be.
Like,
Yeah, he's
he's
okay
arrested.
then.
Like,
they used the avalanche not to kill Bond and Tracy, but to capture Tracy and hold her, and then Bond leaves.
Yeah.
And the next thing
Well,
you
Blofeld actually thought he was dead.
yeah, but the next time you see Bond, he's in M's office, and M has to tell him that they're not going after Tracy. So again, Bond is pissed off again, and
Well, at this point,
Decides.
it's his fiance, so yeah.
decides to essentially M is like, hey, that's your personal problem, not the MI6's problem. Oh, not essentially. That's what he says.
yeah.
So Bond calls Draco and is like, hey, we need to go after Tracy. Of course, that being her dad, he agrees. So then they get on 3 helicopters. The helicopter scene is way drug out.
Yeah.
They have to fool people 2 different times to fly a helicopter
Yeah.
through the mountains. But then they land, and again, big battle scene, machine guns, grenades, punching, fighting, all that good jazz. Taking over Blofeld's facility. They set bombs. They get Tracy out. Dad punches her in the face and knocks her unconscious.
I think
Yeah,
it was
he
the
did.
right
Well,
thing to
because she was
do.
being
Tracy-
stupid.
Yeah, she was being stupid. She was trying to go back in the facility for Bond, and so the dad knocks her out with a right hook
Another thing
Like,
I had to
set
explain to my
bombs in there, you
7-year-old.
can't go in there.
yeah.
and throws her on the helicopter. And
Says the whole-
he goes,
he goes, "Spare the rod."
spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Basically, like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Bond and Blofeld barely escape the blowing up of the facility, and then instead of skiing down the mountain, they are tobogganing down the mountain.
Yeah.
It's a
I
great
thought
scene,
I
I
thought that was
thought.
kind of cool. I thought it was.
It is, but
They made
they
for
really
interesting
they
fights.
really made a toboggan track down the entirety of the Alps.
Well,
Are you kidding?
There has to
Oh,
always be a way
yeah.
out.
You got all that snow. You got nothing else to do.
So they are chasing each other.
You got
Then
sunlight
then
24 hours.
he,
Like,
he throws a grenade and blows up Bond's sled.
Well,
but
after
then
he fumbles it.
yeah, he
Yeah,
fumbled
that
it.
was
Yeah.
that-
I'm
was
like,
like-
they're gonna end him like this.
that's what I thought. I was like,
Like,
this
no
can't be
way.
how he goes out.
Like,
Like,
nope, he got it.
And then, but Bond ends up ahead of him somehow after he blows up his sled and jumps onto his sled.
yeah, it was odd. I guess we're supposed to assume
Well,
he
it was-
slid,
it
he kept
was like-
sliding down the hill.
yeah, it was like there was like a curve they went around, and he went off this side and then ran and like jumped onto him.
It still should have, like, I think the.
Oh
it still
yeah,
should-
like
he-
you're.
Blofeld still should have been moving.
Oh
too
yeah,
fast
you're not
Yeah.
running.
for
Yeah,
him to
let's
just
say you're
run
not running through
in,
the
like,
snow
what,
and everything
12
like that.
feet.
But yeah.
This was by far my favorite action scene in the movie.
Yeah.
It was very
I like
different.
all of
I
the
liked
all
it.
of the snow, all of the skiing stuff. I like that, all of that stuff. It was pretty good.
Then
Like-
Blofeld ends up getting his neck caught in the fork of a tree,
Someone should have moved that
I
fucking
would laugh
branch.
when I saw that happen.
Yeah.
and he's hanging by it. Like he's fully suspended in the air by his neck in the crook of a tree, like unconscious. And Bond continues down the
He
hill.
said something stupid after that.
He does say something. I
Yeah,
can't remember what
he
it
said,
is.
Neither Blofeld
something about
nor
hanging
Bond
around or
can be
something, yeah.
bothered to ensure the other one's dead.
Yes.
They're just like,
It was like,
Yep.
ah, he's dead.
So
Defeated.
It's
then
called job security.
yeah, it's true. But then Bond, we jump right to Bond's wedding,
Oh,
and
Yeah.
Bond gets married. M is there. Q is there and has like a moment with Bond.
Yeah.
You know what?
You know,
I've hated you
a-
for so long, but you know what? You're all right.
Yeah. And then
As you said it out
that's
loud,
where,
like-
again, we mentioned earlier, Moneypenny is crying.
Yeah, because he freaking let her on
Yeah.
the most in this movie than ever.
Then, on top of that,
I like the hat, where like tossed her the hat
He
is like
tossed her a
always
hat. I
messing
thought
up
that was
government
cool.
property.
Yes,
Like, it's like
yes.
I did like that reference.
Bond
Like,
gives
that was endearing at least. Like,
Yeah.
Bond gives Draco the money back. He doesn't take the money.
yeah.
Um,
Kind of prove that no, he's actually in love with this
Yeah.
woman.
yes. And then they drive away with the flowers all over their car. He stops on the side of the road to take the flowers off
It
because
looked fruity.
Because she didn't get a
Yeah,
present.
she
is
didn't.
what he
She
said.
didn't. Get,
Yeah.
He's like, I never gave you a wedding present. I'm like, no, it's
Yeah.
your wedding. Why are you giving her a wedding present?
yeah. So then a car drives by with Blofeld and the Fraulein in
With his
it.
broken neck.
Yes, and he's driving with his broken neck. And the Fraulein
They did a
shoots the
drive-by
machine
on it.
gun across the car, and Bond so casually goes, "That was Blofeld." Walks around the car, opens the door, gets in, and puts his hand on the wheel like he's getting ready to drive away, and is like, "I can't believe that was Blofeld." And looks over at Tracy, and she has a bullet through her forehead.
I thought
Yeah.
it was a great scene, in my opinion. Probably the best scene as far as non-action, but as far as his acting goes, I
Oh
thought
yeah,
he
because
was
you
fine
see,
throughout, but he was
yeah,
really good in
you
this.
see Bond in a way you never see him because he was like almost delusional.
Oh,
He's like,
he
she's
was
she's just right.
delusional.
Well, yeah, he was, and it was like that was so weird because
Yeah, because then the cop pulls up or whatever, and
But the
He's like,
the
"She's
cop
all
thing
right."
was weird. The cop immediately pulls up, and Bond is saying the most weird, obviously not true things to the cop.
Yeah.
And the cop is just sitting on his motorcycle, like, "Oh,
sitting
okay,
there.
cool." Like, doesn't do
I thought he was
anything,
gonna
doesn't
try to kill
move. It was almost like he wasn't real. It was like he's
Yeah.
just sitting on his
Yeah.
motorcycle, just sitting there.
yeah.
Yeah, it was an odd scene. I liked it. It was definitely odd though.
And then screen goes black, and the movie's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of hated that.
Yeah.
I was kind of pissed.
I was expecting, something like that to happen sooner, and now you don't get a resolution, and they're like,
Yeah.
like
So literally, like the whole
Fuck you,
movie
watch the
is
next one.
just a setup. Like that's what like
Yeah.
that like to me is like, oh, here's your middle finger to the audience. That's why like the ending irritated me. Like I even texted you right
Yeah, you
afterward.
did,
I was
yeah.
like, this is some bullshit. Like
So do you think that would be like a good opening scene to a Bond movie then, but not a good closing?
Well, I don't want to
scene?
see Bond married, so I don't know that would be a good scene of any
Okay.
Bond movie. But his love interest being shot, and then the movie ending, it's kind of a cliffhanger. But at the same time, normally Bond wouldn't care enough about a girl that her being killed would be a cliffhanger to us. But then he married this chick, which is so un-Bond. It's like so weird. Like the whole situation shouldn't have happened, but it did happen, and now you're like, it's kind of like a cliffhanger. I don't
think
know.
it was that to me the whole relationship seemed shoehorned from the first place, and I think that's why it's so like. That's why to me it's such a middle finger because, like you said, it's so unbelievable. First off, that this character, first off, did fall in love with somebody while he was in the field, and then it's like I didn't really get that they were all that like I didn't get that feeling from their dynamic in the movie. So then I was like,
Dude, you saw that montage.
unfortunately, yes. Like, should have made a sandwich. Like, but it's just one of those things. Like, nothing in the movie like led up to like the cliffhanger being what it was to me. Like, I think that's what was irritating about the whole endeavor. Is like I just felt like it felt like a side story. Like I said, this didn't feel like a James Bond movie. This felt like it's like, all right, now we're just gonna like sidetrack to like this story in James Bond's private life and almost, and then we'll just come back to the regular storyline later on. Like it just didn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
Like I was really irritated.
Do you think they were making a concerted effort to change the James Bond character?
Maybe. I mean, they could have been like, "Hey, Lazenby's going to go in a different direction than Connery
I would
was."
say
Yeah.
I say yes.
But then Lazenby quit after the movie.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things of, I think they were expecting, because they offered him like I think a 7-movie contract after this
Whoa.
movie,
God damn.
and he turned it down and refused to make any more.
Wow, that's crazy.
I'd
So-
call that a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say so.
I did not, in any way, shape, or form, dislike Lazenby.
No, like you
No.
said, I think he could have acted the part.
Yeah.
Like I said, I really think a majority of this is storytelling and writing. Like I think a majority of that's what this was and everything. There's I don't know, plot holes everywhere. Like that's
Indeed.
They tried to squeeze a lot in, and it all didn't work.
Yep.
All right. Well, shall we move on to our rankings, gentlemen?
yeah.
So,
See what you got.
So, correct me if I'm wrong here, gentlemen, but we have 3 women to add to the body count.
Let's see.
The two,
Two
Blofeld's
hypnotized-
women, and then Tracy.
Was that it? Yeah.
Yep.
So we're at 17 through 6 movies. So almost 3 a movie.
He's pretty consistent. I like that.
All right, now we move on to the ranking of our Bond girls. There's not technically really a Bond girl in this movie because 2 of them are bad guys and 1 of them's dead. So we're going with Tracy because he married her. So it's not really a great choice in this movie. But as Tracy goes, where do we want to rank her? For me, I put Tracy at 6.
Yeah. I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
I found, first of all, Tracy was really hard to like at the beginning of the movie, obviously.
She was, yes.
But then, of course, she did change and grow.
She went through a
grew on
montage,
me.
dude.
Yeah.
She went through that.
Gosh,
Frankly,
she was still hard
she
for
grew
me
as
to
a
like.
person.
She was. I didn't enjoy her character like throughout the whole thing. Like
Well, they wanted to build up that she was wild and out of control. And
Well,
she
she's-
was. She
but-
started off trying to kill herself.
Yeah, right. She comes across like she's
and
like
Bond
mentally
should've
ill.
Just drove
Yeah.
by. Like I'll say, Bond should have just drove by that day.
He should. He should.
Like let's be honest. Like I
He
this
should
is
have,
a,
and then we would've
this
just
is a
went straight
this
to
is a great
Diamonds
example of
Are
mind your own business. That's what this is.
Yeah.
Like
I would personally, and I know you guys all disagree, I would put her at number 3 myself.
3, really?
Yes, I think she's an attractive enough woman. And I thought she was at least an interesting character. She had an arc, even.
I guess here's my
once again,
thing.
You people going on personality.
It's not like she was ugly either.
This is
No, here's my thing. I don't think any of these women are ugly.
we're like,
They wouldn't be
yeah,
Bond girls if they were
we're
ugly.
not arguing with her. Oh, we're just splitting hairs here. But I mean, like,
But
You
I
don't wanna
will
do the
say there was
character arcs.
something weird
Just
about her
objective.
look. I felt like there was something weird about the way she looked.
I did too.
And it bothered me throughout the whole movie. I couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah.
older than what she was.
I mean,
Probably.
I think she did. Like, if you look at it, was like the lines that she had around her eyes. It made her it made her look older than what I think they were trying to portray her as. Like,
And her nose was kind of turned up. And
there,
usually
there,
when I
was
think of
like, yeah,
women
there
that
was.
way,
I mean, like
was like,
lighting,
you're
lighting.
probably
I mean,
more-
plays a
I don't
part
know.
of it too. But yeah, there's a lot of it to where it's
You
like,
did-
yeah, it's
you
just
did
like
very
this
well.
isn't a flattering angle for you, or like It's like, yeah, you're definitely like there's $1 million to marry you. Like, yeah, all right, I kind of get it. Like,
so, like, I guess my other thing with her personality is the first scene we see her, she tries to kill herself. Then she goes into, like, crazy out of the blue, like, crazy towards Bond, crazy towards her dad, like, just out of control, like Justin said. Then she goes to a man showed me a little bit of attention and hugged me while I cried. I'm obsessed with you.
which is not
That's all mental illness.
Red flags
that's,
everywhere.
That's
Like,
not
just
like,
like-
oh, like I grew into a I loved you. No, that was hey, a man that's not my father showed me some attention and now I'm in love with you. That's like some reactive attachment shit right there.
It's just like undiagnosed like clinical depression. Like just yeah, like no, there's
They even made a. I think her dad even said something like somebody, or either Bond said that she needed help.
Yes, Bond says she
And-
she needs a psychiatrist, not a
Yeah.
husband or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's when Dad said no, she needs to be dominant.
yeah, I don't know.
He needs
yeah,
to be
and-
dominated.
And,
yes.
anybody that like is like I'm gonna commit suicide, but I'm gonna do it by walking into the ocean. Well, like that's what you landed on.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like you can buy a gun. Like it's like there's way easier ways
Your
to do
father's
this.
a
Like
mob boss.
I'm
He's
pretty
has
sure you
access
could even
to
get
plenty of-
cyanide capsules in the '60s and everything in the mail. Like it's
Yeah.
like there's way easier ways that are gonna be less painful. Like I don't want to drown, let alone drown on salt water. Like
Yeah.
just be awful. Like
So now we move into ranking our movie, gentlemen. And I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to place this movie at 6.
As far as Bond movies, yeah, I think it's probably for me gonna keep moving down.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know that it'll be the worst, but
Yeah.
it'll move down for a while.
No, I already know the worst one for me. We ain't got there yet. We're
Yeah,
on the wrong Bond.
I'm definitely
Yeah.
gonna set it at 6.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, I gotta be in agreement.
All right. Well, that's 2 weeks in a row we haven't argued about the girl or the movie, guys. We've just kind of all agreed
There's
for the most part.
There's little to argue when you look at it and just look at the other titles or even look at the past women of it. To where like it's like I said, anything that is kind of redeeming about the movie itself doesn't top anything from the overall from the others. Like it's like I said, you get nothing other than references to past movies. Nothing super like nostalgic or playback of the characters and all that. Like it's I don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
the
You
whole
could
movie was pretty much like a chase scene until the end where shit actually mattered when he
Yeah,
found out about the allergy shit.
Yeah, like it's so weird. But yeah, it's like just and that whole plot line in general and all that. It was almost like they tried to shoehorn a love story in a James Bond film. Is what they tried to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, but the overarching premise is that that Blofeld wants to be a count and all that, and he's got like Pfizer on top of a mountain in the Swiss Alps and all that.
But I mean,
it's
think about it.
it's-
He actually did do something good if he's curing these women
Oh,
of these allergies.
yeah, there's
Yes.
there's something to
So
your
they
research and all
definitely
that.
shouldn't have blown up that facility.
Yeah, at
They
least
should have got all the
yeah.
information out of
yeah,
there so they
take
could.
take some formula or something.
Well,
yeah.
MI6 and NATO didn't want to blow up the facility. Remember,
Yeah.
Bond and
Oh,
Mafia
yeah, this
and
was
the
just
Mafia
Bond
did
being
it.
mad because
Yeah.
you guys are
Yeah.
screwing me over. I can't
Rampage,
go save my
like
fiance.
like it's
So yeah, so we appreciate you tuning in for this In Her Majesty's Secret Service episode, which was an interesting one. I feel like. So next week we will return to Sean Connery and crap.
Diamonds are
Diamonds.
forever.
Diamonds Are Forever. Thank you, Justin.
Yep.
So Diamonds Are Forever will be our episode next week, which, like I said, will return to Connery in his official last movie as James Bond, but not really his last movie as James Bond. So we'll discuss that more later, I suppose.
Mhm.
But we appreciate you tuning in to Blockbuster Bums.